we doing? I was so eager to address the, was it Marquia yesterday that said, teach us about teach us about rentals?
Yes. Well, the lease,
Yes.
how you can become a landlord or put the house on the market for a lease.
Okay, good news is I just did a 15-minute session on exactly that. So
nice.
that will be uploaded this morning. If you have any questions, obviously, you can reach out in the chat or reach out to me directly. But I spent a few minutes going through what it looks like from a tenant perspective, and then a few minutes on what it looks like from a landlord perspective. Okay, just to catch everyone else up. Hopefully we know that as licensed agents in the state of Georgia, we can help buyers buy, sellers sell. We can help landlords find a tenant, and we can help tenants find a landlord. Okay. One thing I wasn't overly clear about probably is that these are really only privately held units that you can help them find. So like if somebody's looking for an apartment or something, I suppose you could help them, but there's really not a mechanism that you would be paid. Does that make sense? However, what I found to be the case was when I put a rental on the market, I'd start getting clobbered with calls, right? Show me, I got questions, show me, I got questions, etc. And the leads were so many that like literally I couldn't handle them all, right? And I mean, there were like 15, 20 leads a day that would come in, right? And that's ultimately, that was kind of one of the impetus to get help pretty quickly. But also if they end up renting something else without you, even if it's an apartment, that's okay. Our goal is to meet people, right? And our goal is to figure out when they might need help again. So I had a list of literally hundreds of renters, some of which I got paid to help, and most of which I did not get paid to help. And I knew when their lease was expiring, right? Because I said, oh, great, you found something. So did you sign a 1-year lease, by the way, or a 2-year lease or a 3-year lease, or what happened? Then I'd create an Excel spreadsheet that I sorted by the date that their lease was expiring. And I'd look at that once or twice a month, because literally it was to the point where I'd have 10 people whose lease were expiring in May of 2021. And then 3 or 4 months before that, I was calling to say, hey, just wanted to check in. How are things? You like where you are? Is it big enough? Is it small enough? Do you want to buy? Do you have any questions, et cetera? And that became a really good pipeline of buyers for us over time, right? So I want to be clear here. What I don't want you to hear is go be a renter's agent and expect to make 6 figures being a renter's agent. Ain't gonna happen, okay? But there was 1 year where I helped like 50 something renters, and yeah, I got paid like, I don't know, $16,000 or $17,000 to do it. But the interesting thing is I put every single one of those people in my database, and over half of them bought with me at some point. And while everyone else was complaining about the market sucking, I was growing my database and I was doing okay. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Bill, I didn't catch the first part of that. What did you say the reason why they were calling you all the time?
Oh, because I had a listing, right? Because I had a rental listing, and people were curious about it, right? So they wanted to see it. They wanted to, they wanted to ask a question about it, whatever it may be. So remember, when we have, that is our, like that's our store, if you will, like that's our inventory. If you've got no inventory, meaning you don't have any listings either for rent or for sale, then you can only sell what other people have earned, right?
Right.
If you've got inventory, then you get to do all the marketing you want and be as creative as you want with it. That's why they say listings are where it's at, because you get to control the market, right? Otherwise, I'm on the receiving end of that, where my tenant who I'm helping says, hey, Bill, did you see that new one that came on the market in Sandy Springs? Let's go see it today. And you're like, oh, well, I kind of was planning on, having lunch with my wife today. Well, not anymore, because now you're off to work with a buyer or a renter. You see what I'm saying? So you just have less control. Okay, Any thoughts or questions on that? I'll upload the thing this morning so you can see a little bit more detailed of a presentation. As I mentioned, we had a request yesterday for to learn more about the rental world and how you can help renters and how you can help landlords. So we went into a little detail about that this morning. If you watch the video and have some questions, obviously, you know, you can reach out to me directly or put them in the chat. We've got a number of agents that have dealt successfully with renters over time. Particularly Pam and I, and we're more than happy to help you. Okay. The only person
Hey, Bill,
that's probably done more renters than me is Pam.
Can you put the link inside of the WhatsApp?
Yep.
Thank you.
I certainly will. Don't forget, guys, we do have a private YouTube channel. The link is available in the weekly email. And I would recommend bookmarking that and subscribing and getting notifications and all of that, so that you can see videos as they pop up. Okay, so we started this program on March 9th, I think, of last year. So in the neighborhood of, like, I don't know, 3 days before COVID started. And we've got videos from basically day one. Okay, so virtually anything you'd like to learn about, there's at least one video about it, and that might be a good starting point. Okay. Let's, I have one person to welcome. We have a gentleman named Ray Flowers on the call. He is new to Keller Williams. He's checking us out today. Let's welcome Ray. Ray, you want to introduce yourself?
Good morning, team.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ray.
Good morning.
Hey.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that introduction there, Mr. Bill. So yeah, my name is Raymond Flowers. You can call me Ray. Either or is fine. Yes, super new to real estate. I think this is week 3. I mean, literally, guys, I'm not even 30 days in yet, right? So yeah, I'm really excited to work with Bill. I've heard a couple of you guys, and you know, the beginning of it really is a whirlwind. Just so much information, right? So I was like, I think that'll definitely settle that down. So I'm really excited to work with Bill and work with you all. So
beautiful. Welcome aboard, sir. Welcome aboard. Okay. We usually start off each meeting with some positive news. Who's had some success in the last day or two that they want to share?
Bill, I got a buyer brokerage agreement signed.
Nice. All right. Tell us more about that. Where did that person come from?
A friend. She finally got pre-approved and went ahead and sent over the buyer brokerage agreement. So she's staying at home, so she's ready to move as soon as we find something. I
bet. Great job. What are they looking for in case we have a listing coming up?
Anywhere up to 225 in the Lawrenceville, Stone Mountain, Tucker area, preferably townhome.
Okay. All right. Who else has some good news? Come on, don't make Raymond think that we don't talk around here now.
I'm going to submit my first offer today. I'm still working on it because he kind of had a change of heart last night. So we talked it through, and I put in the chat kind of John and Corey and Charleston offered, and Heather's been invaluable in helping me kind of navigate and figure that out. So honestly, without this group, and Ray, you need to hear this, without this group, I would be tragically in the weeds. So this is the smartest thing you can do, is join PC. I would say that would be like step 1.
Thank you so much for those kind words, Greta. I'm super proud of you guys. One of the things that I've been aware of, and it was super important to me from day one, is to create a culture of sharing, right? We all come from different places. We all have different goals. We all have different levels of experience, and some are part-time, some are full-time, and all that. But we're all learning together. And when we have a mindset of abundance, and we're not worried about, like if I help Greta with that contract, she's not worried that like I'm going to steal her buyer or something like that, right? We're just helping each other with the things we've learned, both the good things and the lessons we've learned. I could, go on all morning about how each and every one of you has played a role in that. I'll just thank you, altogether, thank you for all the cooperation, for all the support. We've got people that are helping people make the cold calls. We got helping people find scripts online, whatever it may be. Thank you for that. So, okay, let's talk about open houses for a second. Open houses. Who is using open houses for their strategy, one of their lead generation strategies right now?
Me, absolutely.
Okay. How's that been going for you, John? Is that something you're enjoying? Is that
It's
something
been going great. I've been very for me, that's a very comfortable way of meeting people. I've had several bars along the way that I'm still in contact with that I've added to my database from open houses. They're easy to do. For me, it's a really good way. It's a very comfortable way to build your database, get more familiar with the industry, with homes. I've enjoyed it.
Okay, cool. Now, I would assume that your very first open house, and correct me if I'm wrong, you didn't have the confidence or the organization around your morning as you do now, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, the first one was not. I've never shadowed. I've always hosted, but yeah, the first couple that I did were not. Yeah, I look back now, and there were many things I could have done differently.
Okay, cool. So the lesson from that is we're not going to be perfect on day one, you guys. We are going to make some missteps. The goal is to identify the misstep and then to look around and say, ooh, I kind of botched that. Is there anyone that's done this before that might be able to guide me, right? Is anybody that could give me some pointers, right? Could I shadow one, right? So we should always be thinking to ourselves, how can we learn from what we've experienced or what missteps we've made? One thing I want to point out is, Keller Williams is a company of models, right? Models. I'm going to show you a model for an open house, okay? Let me share my screen with you real fast. All right, can you guys see this? This is called the 7 levels of an open house. Can everyone see this okay?
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
is it fair to say that, there are some open houses that you walk in and it appears like the agent probably decided they wanted to do the open house at 12 o'clock and the open house started at 1. And then there are some open houses where maybe the agent decided they were going to do the open house like a week or two before, and they spent a considerable amount of time trying to bring more people to the event. It was more organized. Maybe there was somebody there to help with the overflow and, keep people safe of COVID and all these kind of things, right? So I'm going to show you the 7 levels of an open house. Okay, this document is in the PC folder. It's called 7 level open house. Okay, level 1, it starts off the worst. Okay, level 1 is a sign in the yard. Okay, guys, if you're going to take a few hours away from your family on a weekend, take it seriously. Make it worth your while. Okay, it takes just as much time to do it right as it does do it wrong. You know what I'm saying? A level 1 open house, if you've done a level 1 open house and you had like 0 people come or 1 or 2 families come, and then you're like, open houses aren't for me. Yeah, you're right. They're not for you because you didn't do it. Okay. So you got to make sure that you take this process seriously and you put in 100% effort. Okay. Level 1, sign in the yard. That's it. Level 2, you go to the store and you put some balloons on your sign, right? Or you get some riders and you put maybe 1 or 2 riders out at the street corners leading up to the home. Okay. Now, let's talk about riders for a second. Every city and county has their own policies on when you can put out signs and how many signs you can put out. One of the top agents in all of Keller Williams is known for literally putting out like hundreds of riders. Like there ain't nobody in town that doesn't know this open house is happening. And almost every week she loses a bunch of signs and almost every week she gets fined. Okay. And she just says, whatever, it's cost of doing business. I'm known for open houses. I can't just put out 2 signs, right? So I lose $100 worth of signs a week. Who cares? I get a $200 fine per week. Who cares? I'm making $10 million a year, literally. You see what I'm saying? Now, I'm not suggesting you guys take that same attitude. I'm just encouraging you to think of it slightly differently, right? If we're paralyzed by like a city ordinance or something like that, and we spend 10 hours looking it up, you could have just broke the rules and paid the fine, and that could have taken 2 minutes. You see what I'm saying? Again, I'm not telling you to go break the rules and ignore all the ordinances. I'm just saying, make sure you value your time, okay? You want to give me any pushback on that? I know I just said some controversial stuff.
Not at all. I'm breaking all the rules. I'm just playing, Bill. I'm just
It's
playing.
okay. I just make sure you can afford to pay the fine.
It's a cost benefit thing.
What?
It's a cost benefit thing.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's move to level 3. Level 3. So we have a sign in the yard. We have a sign with balloons and riders. Riders, by the way, is like just generally a smaller sign that's like open house this way or something like that, right? Directional signs at all key corners with balloons and riders. Okay, so whenever you host an open house for somebody, I'd look at it on the map, look at that house on the map, right? And see what are the directions that people will likely come from to this property, right? So for example, let's say it's in, let's say the open house is at our office, right? Okay, so somebody might come from Roswell Road, or not Roswell Road, Highway 9, right? And take a left on Holcomb Bridge. You might also take a left on Mansell and kind of loop back around. You might come from the Woodstock area and want to take a left on Mansell, right? You definitely want to have a sign at the corner of, the pull-in where the monument sign is, right? You might also want to have a sign on the other exit over near the barbecue place, right? And maybe one over on the street corner near Stony River, right? If somebody's coming up north on Highway 9, you want to direct them to take a left there. So take some time to look at the map and say, hey, will people be coming south on 400 to get here generally, north on 400 to get here generally? What are the main crossroads that they'll probably go to? And how many signs am I willing to put out, right? I would say at least 3 or 4 signs, at least, maybe more though, okay? All right, next step would be, and as we go farther and farther in these levels, you can expect to have more people come. Is there anybody here who would rather have 2 people at the open house rather than 12 people at the open house? If you're going to be there, you may as well have a lot of people there, right? Okay, so the extra step here is flyers the week before, email invites, and posted on websites. So that could be boosting social media ads. That could be doing a video to your social media that says, hey, here's a preview of the property. You guys will love seeing the kitchen. I'll be there from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock or whatever, right? And you kind of tease a little bit. Maybe you take a flyer. Who do you hand the flyer to? You can hand the flyer to the neighbors. You can hand the flyer to the business owners nearby, right? Nobody's doing this, but also very few people are doing a 7th level open house, right? And oftentimes a good open house attendance is like 4 or 5 families. There's people that are getting 30, 40 families at open houses because they're making it an event, right? And literally, like, this is their big lead generation event of the week, right? They're putting a lot of their manpower and their hours into making this event a wild success, okay? A 5th level open house is go invite the neighbors, right? Maybe take the house and knock, 25 doors to the right, 25 doors to the left, and 50 across the street. Would you be willing to do that to find a new prospect? I think that'd probably be a good investment of your time, right? If you were to knock those 100 doors, do you think you'd have a bigger attendance at the open house or a smaller attendance at the open house?
Of course, bigger.
Of course.
Sure.
Okay. Oh, and by the way, when you say, hey, I'm Bill, I'm the real estate agent, I'm the listing agent for the Smith's house down the street, and we're hosting an open house, and I just wanted to take a minute to invite you, right? I made a commitment to them that I would invite some neighbors. Boy, that's full of good stuff, right? That's full of, I made a commitment. You've probably never had your door knocked by a real estate agent inviting you to an open house, and I'm the one here. We know, statistically speaking, that somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 12% of the population will move every year. Okay, 10 to 12% of the population will move every year, which means 10 to 12% of your database will move every year too, right? Which means if you have a 500-person database and you don't know of the 50 people that want to move that year, somebody else is going to get paid when they move. Does that make sense? Okay, so if you go knock 100 doors, you probably just got belly to belly with 10 people who are interested in moving. And if you're the one there dressed sharp, taking your job seriously, do you think you'll have an in-way to get the listing, or at minimum the appointment? Do you think there's a chance that if they have a real estate question, they'll come to you first? Come on. Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We try to be, Ray, we try to be very interactive around here. Okay, level 6, get on the phone that morning and remind everyone, right? As part of PC, we have access to Cole Realty Resource, right? So you, let's say, Michael, you email me in the, today and say, hey, I'm gonna be hosting an open house on Sunday, or hey, I'm gonna be hosting an open house next Sunday at 123 Smith Street. Send me the 1,500 people that live closest to the address. And this week, your job is to call all those 1,500 people and invite them to the open house. Okay, and then as that conversation is progressing, you're asking questions about potentially the 3 asked questions, right? When was the last time you thought about moving? Do you know anyone that's thought about moving, right? That we could help today. By the way, while I got you on the phone, when it comes to real estate, who is it that you trust? That's telling you they don't know anyone, which means that's a shoe-in for you to forge that relationship right there. Make sense? Okay. We know some people that are doing open houses, let's say from 2 to 4 to the public, but 1 to 2 to neighbors. Hey, we're doing a neighbor exclusive. Come on in between 1 and 2, and you can see, you can see an example of somebody who's trying to sell their home right now, right? So they own a home 5 doors down. Don't you think that would be something that's important to them? They get a better idea of what kind of equity they have or what their home's valued at, that kind of stuff, right? The next thing, level 7, is hold 4 other open houses in that area in various price ranges. So if somebody comes in to your $600,000 open house and they say they can only afford 400, say, hey, take that street, take your second left and your third right, and 123 Hill Street is available. That's my listing too, and you can check that one out. Now that's for, as we build our businesses, that will be something that's more realistic for us. But that's just another example of how you can kind of take it to the next level. Does that make sense? Okay, what questions do we have on that idea?
Bill, I don't.
Do you have a question?
Yeah. So if I'm hosting an open house for other agents, the open house signs, can I put my information on those open house signs?
I wouldn't.
What did you say, John?
I don't know if I would. I mean, I've been in that situation. I don't know if I would put my information on the open house. I mean, my information's in the house, and I let them leave. I let visitors leave with my information, but on the directional itself.
Well, the directional, I've never put my name on it anyway, so it's really just like a Keller Williams sign, or like a logo sign for your own little business. I would say, I would probably say the opposite. Pam, I'm kind of curious what your thought is on this, but I would say like you're borrowing the listing for the day. You need to definitely get approval from your client, or I'm sorry, from the listing agent who would have approval from their seller. But I think you could probably push that a little bit. Pam, what do you think on that?
I mean, I got custom made open house signs that have my contact information on it, but I mostly do open houses, of my own listings. I mean, I think either way is okay. you know, it's not going to be out there all the time, and you are the one hosting the open house.
Yeah.
And, you know, if the listing agent wants their information out there, then I'll just say maybe they need to put out the open house signs themselves.
Right. And the other thing is, when you go and let's say I say, hey, John, I see that new listing in Martins Landing you got. Can I host an open house there next Sunday? You say yes. I say, okay, well, I've got a bunch of ideas that I want to do, including calling the neighbors and knocking on doors, these kind of things. Would that all be okay with you? Of course, they're going to say yes.
Of course.
And then you might say, hey, can you tell me a little bit about what standards do I need to be aware of, right? Because if it's somebody's listing, open house is probably part of the marketing pitch that they gave that seller. And there may be certain systems or standards that they want to have in place, even if it's somebody else hosting the open house. So
and you are representing the listing agent that in my situation. So it's very important to me to make sure that I'm doing things exactly, you know, the way that they would like.
Right. My job is to determine kind of the baseline standard is I think of as level 1. And then I say, how can I plus this, right? How can I do more and more surprising and delighting? And how can I get more people into this building, right? Now, let's do just a quick, give me 2 seconds. I'm sorry, give me 2 seconds.
While he's there, I'd say I asked the listing agent if they'll be putting out signs or if I should place my signs. Because if they say I can place my signs, whatever's on them is on them.
I think that's a fair point as well. That's a fair point as well. Hang on 2 seconds. Aubrey's trying to get one thing from me. 1 sec. Okay, let's do a little talk on safety for a second. Okay. First of all, we need to be aware of COVID. Okay, as I mentioned before, there's basically 3 types of people in the world right now. And I'm not saying this to be controversial, it's just my observation. Okay, there are some people that basically have not left their house in a year. Okay, there are some people who, like I believe from what I've seen of you guys, that are willing to leave their house and take appropriate safety precautions, but are not like going to, you know, events with, you know, 100 people unmasked. And then there are the other group of people that say that it's all a hoax and it doesn't exist, right? So those 3 types of people, well, probably not the first one, could come to your open house. And you want to make sure that the safety of you and them and the owners of that house is protected, okay? So my recommendation is to have like a little sanitation station, right? Where you have some duties and some masks if somebody forgot theirs. And some what do you call it? Hand sanitizer, okay? And you want to make anybody that comes in the building, you want them, if they are freaked out, you want them to feel safe, right? So just the more you have there to make them feel safe, the better. Now, if somebody comes in and they don't want to wear a mask, you should have a policy against, you know, for that with the seller that says, hey, you got to have a mask to come in the building, right? Or into the home. Right, seller's request, right? You don't want to wear a mask, I get that, but you can't come here, okay? That's similar to what we have at the office, okay? You also might consider having a kind of a policy, if you will, where there's only 1 family that comes in at a time, or 2 families that come in at a time. And that is designed for a few things. Number 1 is to control how many people are in the building for COVID purposes, but it also gives you an opportunity to have more face time with the people, right? And you avoid things like, oh my gosh, they came in so fast, I didn't even get them to sign in, and these kind of things, right? Because the whole, I shouldn't say the whole point of an open house is to build relationships, but that's pretty much the point, right? Less than 1/2 of 1% of homes will sell at an open house, which basically means that it's an opportunity for you to meet unrepresented buyers, okay? The other safety precaution that I'll put out there is, I don't say this to freak anyone out, but there have been several situations over the last few years, not in our market, but of real estate agents being assaulted or even killed hosting open houses and meeting, people that they didn't know at night in vacant places and these kind of things. So I'm just going to encourage you to consider having another agent with you or another person with you to help control the influx of people that could come, and to make sure that you're not put in a situation that is compromising from a safety standpoint. Make sense? Right? And if you feel more comfortable, carrying mace or not wearing high heels and these kind of things, then I absolutely have no issue with that. I think that's a smart move. Does anyone have any thoughts or feedback on that? Okay. Okay. What other topics do you want to cover with respect to open houses?
Bill?
Yes, ma'am.
So I have 10 signs printed, and actually that's the, you get a discount if you do 10 signs. I had 10 signs printed. I use my own signs. I put out a minimum of 4 and a max of 10. Just heads up, I had one neighborhood that had 3 entrances. So I put out all 10 signs, but I took a picture of each street sign, so I knew where my signs were at afterwards, because this was a huge neighborhood.
That's smart.
I didn't want to lose my signs afterwards. I go the day before usually, and I invite all the neighbors for a preview. I like to have the neighbors come from 12 to 1, and then the actual open house is 1 to 4. The reason I like to have the neighbors come at a different time, I know it looks busy when neighbors are in there, but neighbors tend to tell stuff that people probably don't want to know. I had a neighbor come over and tell me that 2 owners prior had a hot tub and a stripper pole in the basement. That's really information that people don't need to know, Right. They're very good about sharing information. Also, I print the docs prior to, and I review all the docs so that I know what the taxes are on the house. I know what the HOA fees are. I know what's included in the HOA. I do a drive-by that morning, if not the day before, and find out where all the amenities are at so I can direct them to the amenities.
Very, very smart. Obviously, I think you should preview the house earlier in the week. I also think that that's a great reason to learn that neighborhood or that area. So for example, if you're going to be hosting an open house in, let's say, a townhome in Sandy Springs that costs $400,000, then you should probably know a little bit about some other townhome communities in Sandy Springs that are roughly the same price, right? Because let's say you're hosting an open house at a community that does not have a gate, and the person walks in the door and say, oh, this place would be perfect, except for I want a community with a gate. Say, oh, well, have you by chance seen this community or this community? Oh, no, I didn't know that there was homes in this neighborhood or this Sandy Springs or whatever, the school district that had gates. Oh yeah, I can certainly help you with that, right? Have you been looking for long, right? You just move right into the pre-buyer consult, basically. You're asking them questions about what their, what their goals are, right? But if they say to you, well, are there any other communities nearby that have gates? And you're like, I don't have any clue, actually. I've spent virtually no time preparing for this, and I don't know. Do you think you have a good shot at getting that piece of business or a bad shot at getting that piece of business? Right? As newer agents, guys, while respecting the idea of, God, family, business, we need to be obsessed almost with learning, right? Every day we get smarter. Every day we get to learn the market more. Every day we get more and more familiar with school districts and highway projects and, big companies that are moving into the area and moving out of the area, right? We help people make real estate decisions. We have to get serious about learning about real estate. Does that make sense? Okay, questions, comments, feedback, complaints, anything? Okay, I must have nailed it. All right, let me take a quick look at the calendar. Remind you guys that there's a new agent boot camp, something or another today, right?
Yes, I think from 1 to 4 today.
Can you double check that, and let's make sure we tell everyone correctly, please? We also have our growth mastermind. We're going to test out a new time this week, and that's from 11 to 12 on Thursday. Growth mastermind, 11 to 12 on Thursday. The target audience for that is agents that do about 4 transactions or more per year. The discussion and the content will revolve around content for that level of production, if you will. If you're not there and you just want to listen, by all means, you can come and hang out with us. So it'll be from 11 to 12 in this room on Thursday. John, what are the
Just to confirm, it is from 1 to 4 with Susan today.
All right, so 1 to 4 o'clock today. That's on kwroswelltraining.com. Will be a new agent boot camp, and Susan's going to walk you through a lot of the basics. I'm sure she'll touch on everything from presentations to contracts to scripts to command, DocuSign, all that stuff. So please make your best effort to attend that. And I suspect that will be recorded and broadcast on Facebook as well. All right, you guys, as always, I appreciate you. And if you have not updated your numbers, please do so. I've got a lot of blank cells here. And thank you. We have 2 videos today to look at, this one and the renter/landlord video that we did from 8:15 to 8:30. So take a look at the YouTube channel shortly for those videos and all the others. And thank you guys so much. Have a great morning.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.